talk about the Ukraine war. It's gone on for nearly 1,000 days, and Donald Trump's victory means uncertainty for Kyiv. So they may be exploring some extreme options, like developing a Ukrainian nuclear weapon. So will it come down to that? We'll discuss. But first, let's look at the latest situation on the battlefield. Russia has lost some territory. It wants to seize this lost territory. It's amassing troops. It is bombarding the Ukrainian capital. Yesterday, it hit Kyiv with a wave of drone and missile strikes. It was the first aerial assault on the capital since August. Meanwhile, Ukraine is struggling to hold on to its gains. It had the advantage this summer, but now its front lines are faltering. So is the political support, courtesy Donald Trump. He promised to end the Ukraine war on day one. How? He says it would require concessions, especially from the Ukrainian side. Basically, Kyiv will have to give up land for peace. Of course, Zelensky does not agree, but refusing Trump will cost him American support. The US, after all, is the biggest supplier of military weapons to Ukraine. It's given $64 billion in military aid so far. If Kyiv refuses Trump's plan, that money will stop flowing. Which is why Ukraine is exploring a second option, making its own nuclear weapon. It was first mentioned in this report. It cites a briefing paper prepared by Ukraine's defense ministry. The paper looks at options. What can Kyiv do if Trump pulls aid? And one of the options is to build a rudimentary nuclear bomb, something that should be ready in a matter of months. Ukraine could use plutonium for this, and the technology won't be new either. It will be similar to America's atomic bomb. In fact, here's a quote from that paper. Creating a simple atomic bomb, as the United States did within the framework of the Manhattan Project, would not be a difficult task 80 years later. So the report states a simple atomic bomb, big enough to take out a Russian military base or even some industrial targets. Now, Ukraine has denied all these reports. It says it has no such plans either to develop or acquire nukes. That should have put the speculation to rest. But you see, this is not the first time that Ukraine has dabbled with the idea of getting nukes. This country became independent in 1991, Ukraine, when the Soviet Union disintegrated. Ukraine inherited thousands of Soviet nuclear weapons. In 1994, Ukraine gave them up. It transferred all those nukes to Russia. This was an exchange of security, and it was a deal brokered by the West. Ukraine's security guarantees are since gone, but it still has 9 operational reactors. It also has the expertise to build weapons. So it should not really be difficult. And it is something that President Zelensky has mentioned before.
What is the way out? Either Ukraine will have nuclear weapons, and then this is defense for us, or we should have some kind of an alliance. Today, we do not know any effective alliances other than NATO.
Either Ukraine joins the alliance, or it may have no choice but to pursue nukes. That was Zelensky's ultimatum, and it shows Ukraine's desperation, especially for security guarantees. But you see, Kyiv is not the only one that's desperate. The current US administration is desperate too. Joe Biden has 2 months left in office, and he's racing to secure aid for Ukraine. Biden was in Berlin in October. It was his last trip to Europe, and he discussed the Ukraine war with allies. Now, his top diplomat is in the region, that's Antony Blinken, and he's trying to make sure that Ukraine gets what it needs.
As we're working to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs to effectively defend itself, the United States continues to step up. We've obligated just recently and pushed out the door another $8 billion in security assistance for Ukraine. That was in September. Another almost $500 million just a few weeks ago. And President Biden is committed to making sure that every dollar we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door between now and January 20th.
So Biden is pushing more aid to Ukraine. The idea is to create a buffer as Trump pledges to end the war. He hasn't mentioned any plan, though, which leaves Ukraine at a crossroads. What happens if all diplomatic solutions fail? What will Ukraine do then? Getting nukes could reshape global security for generations. It could trigger another arms race, so the stakes are quite high. The question is, how far will Ukraine go to protect its sovereignty?